Secondly, we are sending the actual mechanical parts that are needed for the machinery they have to build a vaccine, and that's being done as well. We're also discussing, I've discussed with him, when we'll be able to send actual vaccines to India, which will be my intention to do.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a conversation with the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. This happened yesterday. Prime Minister thanked the Qatar Emir for solidarity and the offer of support in India's fight against COVID-19. Prime Minister wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "Had a good conversation with His Highness Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar. I thanked His Highness for the solidarity and offer of support in India's fight against COVID-19. I also conveyed our gratitude for the care being provided to the Indian community in Qatar." Well, Abhishek Jha joins us with an update on all these stories. Well, Abhishek, India has, sort of created good karma in a sense by giving out so much help in the past. It's all coming back in.
Of course, Mark, it looks like what you sow, so shall you reap.
Yes.
So that is actually happening with India. India in the last 6-8 months was at the very best, trying its all, with all its resources, trying to reach out to all the nations and geographies where the COVID pandemic was at surge. And India did help with all of equipment, medicine, and all those gears that frontline health workers had to wear to treat the COVID patients. So in all that effort that India was trying to do across the globe, it was a fight, a global fight against this COVID pandemic. And now when India is actually witnessing an unprecedented sort of surge of COVID cases, where the hospital and our existing healthcare infrastructure system is overburdened and in fact overflowing with the number of daily increasing number of patients, the world has India has actually sought help from the world, and world has come to the need of India, where we are seeing all the countries, the small, big, or countries like Ireland, countries like Singapore, USA, UK, Germany, France, countries from Gulf. Every country is actually extending a helping hand with machines, with oxygen, VVIP, and all those mechanical parts, especially coming from USA, which will be needed to boost and strengthen our already burdened healthcare infrastructure. And we can hope that with all this help that is coming in our way, the fight against COVID pandemic will be a little more, supported, and we'll be able to do all that we can in order to save more lives and treat more patients with COVID in our country.
Yes, indeed, and it is a global fight, as we can see by, the global response also. But the question that comes to mind is, all this is coming in, and how is it being utilized? What systems are in place for, for it to be delivered to the people in need?
So, Mark, in fact, all that, the first thing that have come to India has been the oxygen tankers, because India was needing those logistical supports where there were a lot of industrial oxygen being produced, being diverted to medical oxygen across the various, geographical location in our country. But then the logistical support to carry that oxygen from those industrial plants to the, or hospitals where it was highly in need, especially in a place like Delhi, where those big industrial plants are not in the nearby places, but Delhi had to take oxygen. Some of the oxygen came from Odisha plants. So almost covering that 1,700 kilometers of journey from Odisha to Delhi. So it was a big task to reduce the turnaround time of a tanker, where the tanker will fill up the oxygen and deliver it at a point, and then again go back to the plant to take oxygen further. So to do this smoothly, India needed more tankers, so that while the tankers on way will continue to travel to and fro from the facility to the hospitals, more tankers will be placed into service, so that a continuous supply of oxygen can also be maintained at various hospitals in Delhi and other parts of the country where the oxygen is in high demand. That was first commodity India was needing.
Yes. Abhishek.
Apart from that, we have also seen, oxygen concentrator, which will be actually supplying oxygen to a patient who is in need of oxygen, and the refilling of oxygen cylinder will not be required if that oxygen concentrator is there for a patient, and it can actually supply oxygen to a patient which is from less to medium level of criticality, if we can
Yes.
say that word. So those machines India is needing, like almost there are from USA almost 11,000 machines are being sent to India.
Right.
There are other NGOs and individuals and organizations also who are pitching in with their resources, and they're trying to send across as many equipments and these especially needed equipments in this hour
True.
of crisis, so that our healthcare can be, given a boost.
Thanks very much, Abhishek Jha, for those inputs. We're going to take a short break. You're watching Midday Prime. Stay with us.
ये गर्मा गर्मी धक्का धक्की प्यास एक है सबकी टेंशन का स्ट्रॉ हटा और एक सांस में खटक जा हमारा कोल्ड ड्रिंक हमारा कोल्ड ड्रिंक हमारा कोल्ड ड्रिंक अमूल लस्सी हमारा कोल्ड ड्रिंक
Well, Assam on Tuesday signed 3 MOUs with oxygen manufacturers that will ramp up the oxygen capacity of the state by 10.5 metric tons per day. The MOUs were signed at the Janta Bhavan on Tuesday, where representatives of the oxygen manufacturers were present. The Assam Health Minister, Himanta Biswa Sarma, along with the Principal Secretary Health and Family Welfare, the Department of Assam, Sameer Sinha, were present. And while briefing the media, the Health Minister said that daily oxygen production capacity will reach 66 MT per day as the manufacturers will supply the oxygen from now on, and the rates of which will be as per the rates fixed by the National Pharmaceuticals Pricing Authority. Further adding, Sarma said that in fact Bhutan will export 40 MT of liquid oxygen to Assam by the oxygen plant that is being set up at Motanga Industrial Estate in Bhutan's Sandrap Jongkhar district. More news on oxygen. The Indian Railways continues to provide a sigh of relief to the country amid the COVID-19 pandemic. To enhance the availability of oxygen in Uttar Pradesh, 6 oxygen expresses have been sent from Lucknow to Bokaro, and this train will load liquid medical oxygen from Bokaro to ensure adequate supply of oxygen in Lucknow. Actually, the Oxygen Express carrying 6 oxygen tankers from Jharkhand's Bokaro arrived at Mandideep railway station in Bhopal, and 2 tankers each were sent to Mandideep and Sagar, and 1 tanker to Jabalpur. And well, the DRDO is also going to set up 500 medical oxygen plants within 3 months under the PM CARES funds. The medical oxygen plant technology is developed by DRDO for onboard oxygen generation for the LCA Tejas, and it will now help in fighting the current crisis of oxygen for COVID-19 patients. The oxygen plant is designed for a capacity of 1,000 liters per minute, and the system can cater to 190 patients at a flow rate of 5 LPM and charge 195 cylinders per day. So hospitals will be able to generate on-site medical oxygen in a cost-effective manner, with the oxygen plant, rather than depending upon sourcing it from other places. A powerful earthquake measuring 6.4 on the Richter scale jolted Assam and other parts of northeast on Wednesday morning. So this earthquake originated in Tezpur of Assam. Tremors were felt even in North Bengal and other parts of the northeast. According to the National Center of Seismology, the earthquake measuring 6.4 on the Richter scale originated in Sonitpur, Tezpur of Assam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the Chief Minister regarding the earthquake. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said that he spoke to the Assam Chief Minister, Sarbanand Sonowalji, regarding the earthquake in the parts of the state, and assured all possible help from the centre. The PM prayed for the well-being of the people of Assam. Home Minister Amit Shah also spoke to the Chief Minister of Assam, and he said that the central government stands firmly with sisters and brothers of Assam. In a tweet, the Home Minister said, "I've spoken to the Chief Minister of Assam, Shri Sarbanand Sonowalji, to assess the condition in different parts of the state after an earthquake. The central government stands firmly with our sisters and brothers of Assam praying for everyone's safety and well-being. And Mridu Smita now joins us from Guwahati with the latest. But Mridu Smita, what is the damage like? I mean, we have reported that there is damage, but there is no loss of life.
Yes, according to the latest update from the NDRF sources, is that 3 persons were injured here in Guwahati, where one person was critically, he was serious, and he was rushed to the Guwahati Medical College, where he has succumbed to the injuries that he because it was the building that had not exactly collided, but it had some kind of thing fallen into his over his head, because of which he got the injury. And so now I can say that one person has died in this earthquake, as reported from Guwahati. So, however, the jaws, that was quite massive since the earthquake in the morning. It was 7.4 and later, 6.4, and later it was 4.3 and 4.2. So, especially the place where the epicenter was Sonitpur, where cracks were seen in the over the ground as well, and even in some places we could also see visuals of mountains that were like sands were coming by, and yes, the buildings they had few cracks. However, no major incidents of collapsing of buildings or something has been reported. And one particular incident thing has been reported, that the newly constructed Mahamrityunjay temple in Nagaon district, that also had gone under, there has also crack been developed. That is what is the latest from the sources. And this is because Nagaon especially was hit by the earthquake, and Guwahati also was hit because Sonitpur is not far from Guwahati. It is hardly 86 kilometers from where Sonitpur is. So various, and there have been also reports that few hospitals have, because there are patients of COVID that are undergoing treatment. There was a panic among the people that there has been few instances, because usually those patients are kept on isolation and they have much contact with their relatives. So there was a little bit of confusion among people, but the various hospitals where these things was reported later clarified that nothing of that sort has happened. However, little bit of confusion had happened. But, so far, no major incident is being reported so far, Mark.
Thanks very much, Mridu Smita, for those inputs. Moving on then to our National Prime segment. Well, the Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved the signing and ratification of an agreement between the Government of India and the Government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on customs cooperation and mutual administrative assistance in customs matters. The agreement will help in the availability of relevant information for the prevention and investigation of customs offences. The agreement is also expected to facilitate trade and also to ensure efficient clearance of goods traded between the countries. The agreement will be signed on behalf of the governments of the two countries after it's approved by the respective governments, and this agreement shall enter into force from the first day of the month following the signature by duly authorized representatives of both parties. The Indian Army Chief General M.M. Naravane today visited the forward areas in eastern Ladakh and reviewed the operational preparedness in the strategically key sectors. The Army Chief also interacted with the troops. He complimented them for their steadfastness and their high morale. Tejas, India's light combat aircraft, added the 5th generation Python 5 air-to-air missile to its air-to-air weapons capability on Tuesday. Trials were also aimed to validate enhanced capability of the already integrated Derby Beyond Visual Range AAM on Tejas. And well, the test firing at Goa completed a series of missile trials to validate its performance under extremely challenging scenarios. The Derby missile achieved direct hit on a high-speed maneuvering aerial target, and the Python missiles also achieved 100% hits, thereby validating their complete capability. The trials met all the planned objectives. Now, polling for the 8th and the final phase of the West Bengal Assembly elections for 35 assembly constituencies will be held tomorrow. As many as 84.77 lakh voters are eligible to decide the fate of 283 candidates. Polling will be held between 7 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. in 11,860 polling stations in the state. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has banned all victory processions on or after the counting of votes is completed for the elections in the 5 states. Counting of votes in West Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry will take place on May 2. Not more than 2 persons will be allowed to accompany the winning candidates to receive the certificate of election from the returning officer concerned. The BJP President JP Nadda launched the BJYM Doctor Helpline via video conferencing, and speaking on the occasion, JP Nadda said that India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has brought everyone together in the fight against COVID. He said that the country will battle against this wave and emerge out together.
हम सब लोग जानते हैं कि बाकी सब देशों में it was the governments which fought, but in India, under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Modi, he made the society all together to fight this pandemic. Or all of us are confident that just like the first wave, the country will battle this wave and emerge victorious.
Well, you're watching Midday Prime, and it's now time for news and updates from the world of business. The Asian Development Bank said that developing Asia's expected rebound this year could be stronger than had previously been thought, and this is underpinned by expectations of a solid global recovery as well and progress on vaccines. The ADB forecast in the Asian Development Bank Outlook report that the developing Asia will grow 7.3%. Developing Asia will grow 7.3% in 2021. That's stronger than its previous estimate of 6.8% and following a 0.2 contraction last year. South Asia will record its fastest economic recovery this year, with the ADB predicting an expansion of 9.5% after a 6% contraction in 2020, buoyed by India's economic revival. Even as the coronavirus pandemic ravages across Asia, the ADB still expects India to bounce back with an 11% growth this year after an 8% slump in 2020. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince has said that the kingdom was in discussions to sell 1% of the state's oil firm, the Saudi oil firm Aramco, to a leading global energy company. The Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said that Aramco, the world's biggest oil company, which listed on the Saudi bourse in late 2019, could sell further shares, including to international investors, within the next year or two. The Aramco IPO in 2019 was seen as a pillar of the economic diversification program aimed at attracting foreign investment into Saudi Arabia. Aramco raised $25.6 billion in the IPO and later sold more shares under a green shoe option to raise a total of $29.4 billion. You are watching Midday Prime, and it's now time for what's making news across the globe. The U.S. health regulators announced that the fully vaccinated people in the U.S., they can safely engage in outdoor activities like walking and hiking without wearing masks, but should continue to use face coverings in public spaces where they are required to. The U.S. President sustained this announcement of the CDC on allowing the fully vaccinated people to safely engage in outdoor activities and small gatherings without wearing a mask, and the U.S. President lauded the advice as a direct result of steps that the country had taken in its fight against the coronavirus.
Earlier today, the CDC made an important announcement. Starting today, if you're fully vaccinated and you're outdoors, you need, and not in a big crowd, you no longer need to wear a mask. I want to be absolutely clear. If you're in a crowd, like a stadium or at a conference or a concert, you still need to wear a mask, even if you're outside.
The Portuguese President, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, he said in a televised address that the country looks to end the state of emergency, the highest level of coronavirus alert, on Friday, April 30th. He made this announcement on Tuesday, and with infections on a sharp decline, the country prepares to ease strict lockdown restrictions imposed 3 months ago. Portugal will transition to a state of calamity, which still allows the government to impose some measures to reduce the risk of a contagion. But the rules it can put in place are more limited and must be justified. The fourth and last phase of easing of the lockdown is expected to start on Monday, the 3rd of May, with big outdoor and indoor events allowed under capacity restrictions. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed the COVID-related operations by the Indian Air Force. The Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadauria informed the Prime Minister that the IAF has ordered 24/7 readiness of the entire heavy lift fleet and substantial numbers of the medium lift fleet to operate in a hub and spoke model to rapidly meet all COVID-related tasking across the country and overseas. Aircrew for all fleets have been augmented to ensure round-of-the-clock operations. The Prime Minister stressed on the need to increase the speed, scale and safety of operations in transporting oxygen tankers and other essential material. The Prime Minister spoke about the need to ensure that the IAF personnel engaged in COVID-related operations remain safe from infection. He also spoke about the need to ensure safety of all COVID-related operations. The Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadauria informed that the IAF is deploying big as well as medium-sized aircrafts to cover all terrain. And he briefed the Prime Minister about a dedicated COVID air support cell set up by the Indian Air Force to ensure faster coordination with different ministries and agencies to COVID-related operations. The Prime Minister inquired about the health of the IAF personnel and their families, and the Air Chief Marshal apprised him that near saturation vaccination coverage has been achieved by the IAF, and he also informed the PM that hospitals under the Indian Air Force have increased COVID facilities and are also allowing civilians wherever possible. And Arun Sharma now joins us on the phone line with an update on the story. Well, the Air Force, Arun, is in complete readiness to augment, India's fight against COVID-19. Perhaps you can, fill us in with some more details.
That's right, Mark. Now, we know this fact that the Indian Air Force aircrafts primarily are conducting various sorties to various other countries so that the oxygen-related infrastructure, oxygen-related plant and infrastructure can be transported to India. And this is the fastest mode possible as of now as far as the transporting this oxygen-related infrastructure, and Indian Air Force is playing a significant role. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is constantly reviewing all the COVID-related situation. So in that context, only today, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There are some of the big takeaways as far as this meeting is concerned. Now, the Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria informed Prime Minister Modi that Indian Air Force has ordered 24/7 readiness of the entire heavy lift fleet. That means anytime, anywhere, any kind of sorties that needs to be conducted to lift or to transport the oxygen-related infrastructure, oxygen-related plants from various other countries, that can be done immediately and as soon as possible whenever the command is given to the Indian Air Force. Number two takeaway, the big takeaway is that R.K.S. Bhadauria informed Prime Minister Narendra Modi that for all the kind of terrains, the heavy lift aircraft and the mid-size aircraft, they all are being deployed and are in readiness mode. So whenever there is a command given to this Indian Air Force aircraft, they are immediately rushing to transport this kind of to transport the oxygen-related infrastructure. Last but not the least, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also informed by R.K.S. Bhadauria that Indian Air Force has increased COVID facilities and also, these hospitals and COVID facilities are now also allowing civilians wherever possible. So yes, on one side, the Indian Air Force is gearing up and is as in 24/7 readiness mode as far as, transporting the oxygen is concerned. So on the other side, the COVID facility infrastructure is also upgraded by infrastructure as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned. So that primarily, the civilians can also get treatment in this COVID facility. So yes, Indian Air Force is doing its bit as far as transportation of oxygen-related infrastructure is concerned. And that is what was reviewed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi today as well.
Thanks very much, Arun, for those inputs. Moving on then, hundreds of villagers in fact, in the border town of Thailand and Myanmar fled on Tuesday after ethnic minority Karen insurgents. They attacked a Myanmar army outpost, and villagers on the Thai side of the river, they said that they had heard heavy gunfire before dawn. Myanmar's oldest rebel force, which is the Karen National Union, the KNU, said that it had captured the army camp on the west bank of Salween River, which forms the border with Thailand. The KNU and Thai authorities said that the Myanmar military later responded to the insurgents with air strikes. We're going to take another short break. Stay with us. You're watching Midday Prime. Well, and now it's time for our next segment, which is Live Prime, where we bring you stories from the world of art and culture. A large chocolate reproduction of Picasso's iconic painting, Guernica, went on display in the Basque town on the 84th anniversary of the bombing of Germany's Condor Legion in aid of the Francois insurgency during Spain's civil war. The artwork was created by 40 Basque chocolatiers. It measures 7.7 by 3.5 meters and was shown in a recently constructed industrial building and was expected, in fact, to stay in that town until it tours different Spanish and European cities. And with that, we conclude Midday Prime for today. And do keep yourself safe. You see that throughout this bulletin, I have been wearing a mask, in fact, 2 masks. And we have all been advised also to wear our masks indoors, because even if you're in the comfort of your home and meeting other people, you have the danger of transmitting the virus. So stay safe and cover your nose and stay safe and remain happy. Thanks for being with us. Namaskar.
कोविड-19 के चलते ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन का प्रयोग कर रहे हैं। डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन में सबसे सेफ एंड सिक्योर मोड है इंटरनेट बैंकिंग। इंटरनेट बैंकिंग के 3 इंपॉर्टेंट टूल हैं। पहला टूल है NEFT यानी नेशनल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फंड ट्रांसफर। इसमें आपको किसी भी तरह का अतिरिक्त चार्ज नहीं देना पड़ता है। ये 24/7 अवेलेबल होता है। ये एकदम सिक्योर मोड में से एक माना जाता है। हालांकि इसमें जो पैसा ट्रांसफर करते हैं वो रियल टाइम में नहीं होता। इंटरनेट बैंकिंग का दूसरा टूल है IMPS यानी इमीडिएट पेमेंट सर्विसेज। इसकी खासियत है कि आप इसमें रियल टाइम में पैसा ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं। हालांकि इसमें ट्रांसफर लिमिट 2 लाख रुपए तक की होती है। तीसरा टूल है RTGS यानी रियल टाइम ग्रॉस सेटलमेंट। ये काफी फास्ट और सिक्योर्ड मोड माना जाता है। इसमें आपको मिनिमम 2 लाख रुपए तक का ट्रांजैक्शन करना होता है। जब भी आप ऑनलाइन ट्रांजैक्शन करें, सिक्योर्ड मोड ऑफ पेमेंट यानी कि NEFT, RTGS या IMPS के माध्यम से ही करें, ताकि आपका ट्रांजैक्शन एकदम सेफ एंड सिक्योर्ड रह सके।
हर दिन हर पल बनती खबरें, बदलती दुनिया, हम लेकर आते हैं आपके लिए बड़ी खबरें, संपूर्ण कवरेज, ताकि आप रहें खबरों के बीच हमारे साथ। मिड डे प्राइम हिंदी सोमवार से शुक्रवार दोपहर 1 बजे सिर्फ DD न्यूज पर।
कोरोना के विरुद्ध लड़ाई में सही और सटीक जानकारी है अहम। भ्रामक प्रचार को दूर कर
Good afternoon and welcome to Dr. Speak. The registration for the next phase of COVID-19 vaccination drive for citizens above the age of 18 years of age will start from 4 p.m. today. Now, while the vaccination is a ray of hope, COVID cases have seen a sharp rise and health infrastructure is under tremendous pressure. The good news is that not every COVID positive person needs a hospital bed. Proper quarantine and care at home can help you recover back to health. In this edition of Dr. Speak, we will talk about just that. Home care and quarantine for COVID patients. You can connect with us and ask your questions from our medical experts. We're also live on Facebook. You can post your questions there. And remember, you can also call us. Our phone lines are open. 011-2338-7031 is our phone number. I'm Shubhendu with my colleague Mamta.
जी बहुत बहुत स्वागत आप सबका। दूरदर्शन लगातार दर्शकों तक डॉक्टर स्पीक कार्यक्रम लेकर आता है सिर्फ इसी लक्ष्य के साथ कि आपके जो भी सवाल हैं उसकी सही जानकारी, सटीक जानकारी आपको डॉक्टर्स के द्वारा, विशेषज्ञों के द्वारा मिल सके। और अब चूंकि हम दिन में 3 बार ये डॉक्टर स्पीक प्रोग्राम आप तक लेकर आते हैं, 12 से 1, 3 से 4 और 7 से 8, हर एक घंटे में अलग अलग विषय पर हम आपको मौका देते हैं कि आप सवाल पूछ सके। और इस वक्त अगले 1 घंटे में आप होम क्वारंटाइन यानी घर पे रहकर इलाज कैसे किया जाए कोविड का, अगर आप कोविड पॉजिटिव हैं, इससे संबंधित जो भी आपके पास सवाल हो वो आप हमसे इस कार्यक्रम में पूछ सकते हैं। तो नंबर्स आपके सामने हैं, आप फेसबुक लाइव पर डीडी न्यूज के फेसबुक पेज पर भी जाकर अपने सवाल पूछ सकते हैं और हमारे साथ पैनल ऑफ डॉक्टर्स भी मौजूद है। लेकिन सबसे पहले आपको एक बार बता देते हैं कि होम क्वारंटाइन करते हुए किन किन बातों का ख्याल रखा जाना हमारे लिए जरूरी है। तो आपको ग्राफिक्स के जरिए सबसे पहले यही बताना चाहेंगे कि जब आप घर पर हों तो आपको कौन से ऐसे लक्षण हैं जिन पर आपको ध्यान रखना है। अगर आपका बुखार है, नाक बह रहा है, जुकाम है, आंख लाल हो रही है, गले में खराश है, सर दर्द हो रहा है, बदन टूट रहा है, उल्टी आ रही है, डायरिया के लक्षण हैं, त्वचा पर रैशेस, चकत्ते पड़ गए हैं या आपको स्वाद या गंध नहीं आ रही, ये कुछ ऐसे लक्षण हैं। अगर ऐसे कुछ लक्षण हैं तो आप मान लीजिए कि आपको कोविड यानी कोरोना हो सकता है। इससे आगे हटकर अगर इनमें से कोई भी एक लक्षण आ रहा है तो फिर आपको क्या करना होगा। दरअसल जैसे आपको कोई ऐसा लक्षण आए तो आपको RT-PCR टेस्ट करवाना होगा। लेकिन हम जानते हैं कि RT-PCR टेस्ट में अभी बहुत वक्त लग रहा है, रिपोर्ट आने में भी वक्त लग रहा है और बहुत बार रिपोर्ट नेगेटिव भी आ रही है जो सही नहीं होता। ऐसे में आपको टेस्ट की रिपोर्ट का इंतजार किए बिना तुरंत अपने आप को अलग करना होगा। घर में एक अलग कमरा जिसके साथ टॉयलेट अटैच हो उसमें आपको अपने आप को अलग करना होगा। हवादार कमरा हो तो वो बेहतर है, हवा का सर्कुलेशन बहुत जरूरी है कोविड पेशेंट जिस कमरे में ठहर रहे हैं उसमें। और जरूरी है कि घर का कोई एक ही सदस्य हो जो कोरोना संक्रमित व्यक्ति का इलाज कर रहा है। आइसोलेशन में अगर आप हैं अब तो किन बातों का ख्याल रखें। सबसे पहले आप 3 लेयर का मास्क घर पे हमेशा पहन के रखें और हर 8 घंटे पे इस मास्क को बदल भी दें। समय समय पर अपना हाथ आप साबुन से धोते रहें। साथ ही जो सतहें हैं, सर्फेसेस हैं, उन्हें भी आप डिसइंफेक्टेंट से साफ करते रहें ताकि वायरस कहीं पर है तो वो लगातार साफ होता रहे। ध्यान रहे डॉक्टर का नंबर हमेशा हैंडी होना चाहिए, आपके पास होना चाहिए। बहुत जरूरी है कि अगर आप आइसोलेशन में हैं तो भी आप गरारे करते रहिए, नमक वाले पानी के साथ गरारे करते रहिए, भाप लेते रहिए, स्टीम लेते रहिए। ये कुछ ऐसे तरीके हैं जिनसे आप गले और नाक में ही इस वायरस को कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं। डॉक्टर की सलाह से आप दवा जरूर लेते रहें। प्रोटोकॉल है पूरी दवा का, मैनेजमेंट का, उसको ध्यान रखते हुए डॉक्टर आपको दवा बताता है। इसी प्रोटोकॉल का पालन किया जाना हर एक के द्वारा, डॉक्टर के द्वारा और मरीज के द्वारा बहुत जरूरी है। और सबसे बड़ी बात, घबराना नहीं है क्योंकि 85% से ज्यादा मरीज घर पर रहकर ही ठीक हो रहे हैं। आपको खबरों में सुनने में आता है उन लोगों के बारे में जो अस्पताल पहुंच रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर हम पूरी जनसंख्या में जो संक्रमित है उनका आंकड़ा देखें तो ये बहुत कम आंकड़ा है ऐसे लोगों का जो अस्पताल तक पहुंच पा रहे हैं। घर पर रहकर कैसे उपचार करें इसका भी ध्यान रखें कि अगर आपको हल्के लक्षण हैं तो आप घर पर ही डॉक्टर की निगरानी में अपना इलाज शुरू कर सकते हैं। स्वयं अपना इलाज ना करें। नो सेल्फ ट्रीटमेंट, डॉक्टरी परामर्श बहुत जरूरी है। लक्षण के अनुसार आप दवा लेते रहें, बुखार है तो बुखार की दवा, उल्टी है तो उसकी दवा, डायरिया है तो उसकी दवा इत्यादि, डॉक्टर आपको इसके बारे में बताएगा। लेकिन अगर बुखार है तो एक कॉमन रूल जो सभी डॉक्टर्स बताते हैं कि आप पैरासीटामोल जरूर लेते रहें। डॉक्टर की सलाह से ही आप तमाम अन्य दवाएं जैसे विटामिन सी हुआ या विटामिन डी हुआ, जिंक की दवाएं हुए इत्यादि, डॉक्टर आपको बताएगा कि आप इनको भी ले सकते हैं।